The salt-laced wind tugged at Elena's scarf as she stepped off the weathered bus onto the cracked pavement of Eldridge Bay. It had been 20 years since she'd last felt the familiar bite of the Atlantic against her skin, 20 years since the waves had claimed her brother and shattered her world into irreparable shards. At 42, with lines etched around her eyes like the ripples on the bay's surface, Elena wondered if the town had changed or if it was she who was the stranger now. The bus groaned away, leaving her alone with the cry of gulls and the distant rumble of the tide. Her suitcase, a battered relic from her college days, felt heavier than it should, packed not just with clothes but with the ghosts she'd tried to outrun. New York had been her escape. A high-rise apartment overlooking steel and glass, a career in graphic design that paid the bills but starved the soul. But her mother's letter had arrived like a rogue wave, pulling her back. "It's time, Elena. The house is emptying, and so is my heart. Come home before the sea takes the last of us." She walked the mile to Willow Lane, her boots crunching over shells that glittered like broken promises under the late afternoon sun. The bay stretched out to her left, a vast expanse of indigo flecked with whitecaps, mocking her with its eternal indifference. How many times had she and little Theo raced along this shore, building sandcastles that the tide would inevitably devour. Theo, with his freckled nose and infectious laugh, always the dreamer, insisting the castles could float away to adventure if only they believed hard enough. The house at the end of the lane loomed like a sentinel, its clapboard siding faded to a mournful gray, the porch swing creaking in the breeze as if sighing for the children who'd once swung there. Elena paused at the gate, her hand trembling on the rusted latch. Inside, she could hear the faint clatter of dishes, her mother, ever the ritualist, preparing tea as if normalcy could stitch wounds closed. "Mama," Elena called, her voice cracking like driftwood. The kitchen door swung open, and there was Clara, 71 and frail as sea foam, her silver hair pinned in a loose bun that echoed the waves' curl. Her eyes, the same stormy blue as Elena's, widened, then softened with a flood of tears she didn't bother to hide. "Oh, my girl," Clara whispered, pulling Elena into an embrace that smelled of chamomile and regret. Elena stiffened at first, the years of silence building walls thicker than the fog that rolled in from the bay. But then she melted, burying her face in her mother's shoulder, the sobs rising unbidden from a place she'd long ago sealed shut. They sat at the scarred oak table, steam rising from mismatched mugs like unspoken apologies. Clara's hands, veined and spotted, wrapped around hers. "I didn't think you'd come," she admitted, her voice a fragile thread. "After everything." Elena traced the rim of her mug, the ceramic warm against her fingertips. "The letter. You said it was time." Clara nodded, glancing toward the window where the bay churned restlessly. "Theo's birthday. 28 he'd be tomorrow. The attic's full of his things. I can't bear to sort them alone." The name hung in the air like mist. Theo, a syllable that had become taboo in the letters Elena sent sporadically, a name too raw to utter over the phone lines that crackled with distance. The accident replayed in Elena's mind as it always did, that summer storm in '06, the pier where they dared each other to fish despite the warnings. Theo, 12 and fearless, slipping on the slick planks, the water swallowing him whole before Elena could scream. She'd dove in after him, lungs burning, hands grasping at shadows, but the current was merciless. Rescuers pulled her out hypothermic and hysterical. Theo was gone, his small body washing ashore 2 days later, tangled in kelp like a forgotten offering to the sea. Blame had followed like a shadow. Elena blamed herself for suggesting the pier. Clara blamed the storm, God, the universe, anything but the truth. And Daniel, Elena's father, had blamed them both, retreating into bottles of whiskey until one night he packed a bag and left for good, his truck's taillights vanishing into the fog. The family splintered. Elena fled to the city, Clara clung to the house like a barnacle, and Theo's absence echoed in every empty room. That night, as rain pattered against the roof like impatient fingers, Elena lay in her old bed, the quilt prickling with memories. The room hadn't changed, the faded wallpaper of sailboats, the shelf of dog-eared adventure novels Theo had devoured. Sleep evaded her, so she rose and padded to the attic stairs, the wood groaning underfoot. The pull was magnetic, a tide she couldn't resist. The attic smelled of dust and salt, moonlight slanting through a grimy skylight to illuminate boxes labeled in Clara's neat script. Theo's toys, school papers, letters. Elena knelt before the last one, her heart thudding. Letters. Theo had been a boy, scribbling notes on napkins, not penning missives. But these were bound with twine, yellowed envelopes addressed not to anyone, but to the sea itself. The first one trembled in her hands as she slid it open. Dear Ocean. Today Elena yelled at me for splashing her. She says I'm too loud, but I think she's just sad because Papa's working late again. Do you get sad, Ocean? You roar so much, but maybe that's your way of crying. I wish I could swim to you and make you smile. Maybe tomorrow we'll build a boat from driftwood. Don't take it, okay. Love, Theo, age 10. Elena's breath hitched, tears blurring the ink. Letter after letter unfolded like petals of a bruised flower, Theo's childish scrawl chronicling the mundane miracles of boyhood. The first fish he caught, the time he and Elena found a crab that pinched his toe, the quiet ache when Daniel missed a baseball game. But woven through were the undercurrents of a family fraying at the edges. Papa came home smelling like firewater again. Mama cried in the kitchen. Elena drew me a picture of us pirates on your waves. We make a good crew, Ocean. Don't let us sink. By dawn, Elena had read them all, her cheeks streaked with salt that mingled with the sea's own. Theo hadn't just written to the ocean, he'd poured his heart into it, a secret confessional where he absolved them all. The last letter, penned weeks before the storm, gutted her. Dear Ocean. Elena's scared of you lately. Says you hide monsters under the waves. But I know you're just lonely, like me when everyone's fighting. Tomorrow's my birthday. Elena promised pier fishing. I'll throw this in and make a wish, that we all stay together, no matter how rough you get. Promise you'll be gentle. Your friend, Theo. She clutched the paper to her chest, rocking on the attic floor as sobs racked her body. How had she missed it? The fear in his eyes that last day, masked by excitement. The way he'd hugged her tighter than usual, as if sensing the fracture lines. Elena had been 16, hormonal and self-absorbed, drowning in teenage angst while her brother navigated depths she couldn't fathom. Downstairs, Clara found her at breakfast, the letters splayed like a deck of cards on the table. He wrote to the sea, Elena whispered, her voice hoarse. All this time, he was trying to hold us together. Clara's face crumpled, and she sank into a chair, tracing Theo's name with a fingertip. I found them after he was gone. Washed up in a bottle on the shore, not half a mile from here. The tide brought them back, like he knew. Elena's gaze snapped to her mother. You knew. And you never said. Clara's eyes glistened. I thought it would hurt more. And your father. Daniel read them once, before he left. He said they were Theo's way of forgiving us for not seeing him. But I saw, Elena. I saw how you two lit up this house, how you were his world. After the accident, I pushed you away because it hurt to look at you, with his smile. I'm so sorry, my girl. So damn sorry. The words unlocked something primal in Elena, a dam bursting after decades. She slid from her chair to kneel before Clara, their foreheads touching as tears flowed freely. I blamed myself, Elena confessed. Every design I sketched in the city, every late night at the office, it was running from that pier. From failing him. From failing you. Clara cupped her daughter's face, thumbs brushing away the wetness. You didn't fail. We all carried too much. But Theo, he saw the good in the storm. We owe it to him to try. The rain had cleared by noon, leaving the bay sparkling under a hesitant sun. Elena and Clara walked to the shore, the letters tucked into a canvas bag slung over Elena's shoulder. The pier loomed ahead, rebuilt stronger after the storm but scarred with memory. Elena's steps faltered, her pulse racing like the waves crashing below. We don't have to, Clara murmured, squeezing her hand. But Elena squared her shoulders, Theo's words echoing, we make a good crew. We do. For him. They stood at the end, the wood vibrating underfoot with the sea's pulse. One by one, Elena read the letters aloud, her voice gaining strength with each one. The wind carried the words out over the water, gulls wheeling as if in applause. Laughter mingled with tears when she read of the crab incident, a shared memory that bridged the chasm of years. For the final letter, they folded it into a paper boat, just as Theo had dreamed. Elena inscribed the hull with to Theo, we love you. We're sorry. We're whole. Clara lit a single match from her pocket, old habits from Daniel's fishing days, and touched it to the edges, watching the flames dance before setting the boat adrift. It bobbed on the swells, a tiny vessel of light against the vast blue, carried toward the horizon. Elena's chest ached, but it was a different pain now, not the sharp stab of guilt, but the tender throb of release. The sea, that indifferent giant, seemed to cradle the boat gently, as if honoring the boy's wish. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, a figure emerged from the dunes. Tall, weathered, with salt and pepper hair and eyes shadowed by a baseball cap. Daniel. Elena's breath caught, her hand flying to her mouth. Clara had known. Of course she had, the letter's true purpose. I called him last month, she admitted softly. Told him about the letters. About you coming home. Daniel approached slowly, hands shoved in his pockets, his face a map of regrets carved deep. Elena, he said, voice rough as gravel. I didn't know if you'd want to see me. She studied him, this man who'd been her hero once, tossing her into the air with bellows of laughter, then a stranger who'd abandoned ship. Rage flickered, hot and familiar, but Theo's words doused it. Everyone's fighting. Don't let us sink. I didn't know if I wanted to, she replied honestly. But here we are. Theo's pulling the strings from wherever he is. Daniel's laugh was a broken thing, but genuine. He pulled a crumpled envelope from his jacket, his own letter, never sent. I wrote this after I read his. Meant to mail it, but cowardice won. Can I? Elena nodded, and he cleared his throat, unfolding the paper with trembling hands. Dear son. I failed you. Not the sea, not the storm, that was fate's cruelty. I failed by not seeing the man you were becoming. Too lost in my own tempests. Your sister carries your fire, your mother your grace. Forgive an old sailor for jumping ship. I'll always love you, Theo. Wait for me at the pier someday. Dad. The words dissolved into silence, broken only by the waves' murmur. Daniel stepped forward, enveloping Elena in a hug that smelled of pipe tobacco and brine. She resisted for a heartbeat, then clung, the three of them a knot against the wind, Clara's arms around them both, a circle unbroken. They stayed until dusk, sharing stories under the emerging stars. Theo's favorites, the time he convinced Elena to sneak cookies at midnight, the lullabies Clara sang to chase away nightmares. Laughter wove through the grief, fragile threads strengthening into rope. As they walked back, arms linked, Elena felt the weight lift, not gone but shared. The house on Willow Lane glowed warmly, a beacon against the gathering night. Tomorrow was Theo's birthday, no cake, no candles, but a ritual of their own. Breakfast on the porch, reading his letters again, perhaps scattering wildflowers into the bay. In the quiet of her room that night, Elena sketched for the first time in months, not logos or ads, but the pier at sunset, a paper boat sailing toward a figure in the waves, arms outstretched. It was rough, imperfect, but alive with emotion. She titled it Theo's Wish, and as she drifted to sleep, the sea's whisper outside her window sounded less like lament and more like a lullaby. 2 weeks later, Elena extended her stay. The city job could wait. Sketches turned into a series, capturing Eldridge Bay's soul, the gnarled driftwood sculptures, the lighthouse's steadfast beam, the faces of neighbors who'd weathered their own storms. Daniel moved back into the guest room, his tools clattering as he mended the porch swing, his apologies voiced in hammer strikes and shared silences. Clara watched it all with quiet joy, her hands busy knitting scarves from yarn the color of sea glass. He always said the ocean gives back what it takes, she murmured one evening, as they sat with mugs of tea, the bay a silver ribbon under the moon. Just took 20 years for the tide to turn. Elena smiled, tracing the scars on her mother's knuckles, marks from years of mending nets, hearts, lives. We're his gift back, she said. All of us. In the end, it wasn't the grand gestures that healed, but the small ones, a hand extended across the breakfast table, a letter reread by firelight, a boat launched with love. Theo's absence remained a hollow in their chests, but around it, they built something resilient, a family reforged in salt and sorrow, anchored by the shore that had both broken and mended them. And on still nights, when the wind carried echoes of a boy's laughter, Elena swore she heard him, "We make a good crew. Don't sink. Sail on."